I don't think any amount of time could adequately prepare me for this episode. This man is a conundrum that I cannot figure out for the life of me. Which is sad, because I've had to rewrite this update a good 3 times now, just to try and make sense of everything. But at any rate, hello again everyone, and welcome to the 5th update of my reinvestigation into the cold case murder of John Doughtry. I have been dreading to get to this, but here we are. Today I want to discuss the individual whose name I left you with at the end of the last update. A name that's shown up time and time again. A name that slowly built on significance from one interview to another, especially considering he is the individual whose very name instigated the final argument between Nathan and John. This man was hired by Nathan himself to run a photo booth for the Prideful Nights event at the Drunken Bell. And his name is William Sturgis. Now, usually I like to open up with some background information about the subject of each interview, but when it comes to Sturgis, it's difficult. The man's personal life has been a complete mystery, so much so that the detectives have had a hell of a time even getting a hold of him. And in my brief interactions I've had, personally, I am quite okay with not dealing with him again either. But I'll get to that in just a little bit. So, for today's episode, instead of diving into William's background to help set the scene, I'm actually going to just play the interview in full. I personally believe that in order to get a grasp as to the kind of person William truly is, it is better to hear him speak first. Things will start to make sense after that. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, William Sturgis.
Have a seat in this room, please. The detectives will be with you shortly. Would you like some water or coffee while you wait?
Thank you, Peach.
Excuse me?
Peach tea? I would very much like to have some peach tea, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. We only have coffee and water.
I'll pass then, thank you. If I may ask, why am I here?
I'm sorry, sir. I can't really say.
It's alright, I'll wait. Thank you again, Miss Harper.
Of course.
Sturgis?
Yes?
William Sturgis?
Yes, detective, that is me.
You look...
Asian.
Mr. Sturgis, my partner didn't mean...
No, detectives, it's quite alright. I get the reaction quite often. When my family came from Korea, they wanted their children to be as American as possible. Our family name was changed to Sturgis, and I was named William.
I see. Well, Mr. Sturgis, thank you for responding to our call and meeting with us here. My partner here is Detective Thorn, and I am Detective North.
Ho, what interesting names.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we would like to ask you a few questions, and depending on how well you cooperate, the sooner you'll be able to leave.
I understand.
Good. Now then, before we begin, for the record, could you please state your name as well as today's date and time?
Certainly. My name is William Sturgis, and today's date is January 20th, 2012. The time is 10:42 a.m.
Thank you. Now, where were you on the evening of January 7th?
I was at a charity gala upstate. A friend of mine was having her art featured at a prestigious gala, and one of the artists didn't show. That gala is well known for hosting popular artists on the rise, and it would look absolutely dismal to have that section of blank wall as part of the presentation. So I offered to fill in, and they were more than happy to have me, as it provided them with plenty of unique pieces in the past. The gala was open to the public around 5, so I left my condo around 3:30 in the afternoon.
Mr. Sturgis, we know you were supposed to run a photo booth at a bar called the Drunken Bell that night, and somehow people were still able to get their pictures taken at, Prideful Nights while you were at the gala. Would you care to explain?
Oh, yes, of course. The night before, I was contacted by the acquaintance to run the photo booth at the Gay Pride event. It wasn't until I looked up the address that I realized the event was being held at some smutty bar. After hearing about the gala's opening, there wasn't a chance in hell I'd miss it. But I've never canceled on anyone, not even a small-time gig. So I sent my sister instead. She can work a camera just fine. Although, I shouldn't have sent her since she was never paid for her time there.
Is there anyone who could verify that?
Of course. This is my manager's card. She helps me find high-end galleries to feature my work. She sets up the exhibits, finds buyers and clients, and she also helps me maintain a certain visual anonymity.
Visual anonymity?
Yes, she's the only person who knows that I am the artist that signs each photo before it's hung up. I've actually gone through quite a few managers to find her specifically for this reason. She's essentially my boss who I pay.
Okay. Who was the acquaintance that contacted you?
Nathan.
Nathan Ashford?
Possibly. He spoke fast and mumbled. I couldn't hear her last name.
Do you know who Nathan Ashford is?
If by that you mean I'm aware that Nathan was my ex's current plaything, then yes. I know who Nathan Ashford is. I didn't care to learn or hear his last name, thank you.
Yeah, here's what's bothering me. You know this guy is with your ex, yet you still agreed to work for him?
I was not going to work for him. He was only the middleman. I would have been paid by the event host, Leo. Leo, who never paid my sister, mind you.
Did you know that your ex John was going to be there?
Yes, I knew.
But you didn't go.
No, just my sister went.
Why would you agree to it in the first place?
Well, it wasn't for the money, that's for certain. It's been a dream of mine to capture those special moments that people around the world cherish for a lifetime. John and I, our relationship left me with nothing but a shadow of our own special moments. It's nothing but a hallucination of that dream now. My sister tried to talk me out of agreeing to go in the first place, but I was so sure that being there and reminding him where he came from, well, would have helped me move on in my life somehow.
Wait, reminding him where he came from?
Why, yes, of course.
What does that even mean?
Is it relevant?
It could be.
Fine, I'd like to know what this is all about afterward.
Okay, Mr. Sturgis, go on then.
John and I had a complicated relationship. I tend to prefer women, but John was always the center of attention. He was always glowing in the spotlight like a piece of art. He had to have things his way. I had to interact with his friends and go to places he likes. Whenever I tried to do something, even something simple for me, he'd become furious. I'd threaten to leave, and he would somehow make it seem like I was the one being insensitive to his feelings. If I was the bad guy, I could change. I could make us work again and be happy. I didn't notice at the time how much he was manipulating me into getting his way, whether I liked it or not. And I'm sorry my failures at love aren't as exciting as your police chases and questioning of innocent people. But not all stories have to get the adrenaline running.
What are you getting at? How is this relevant?
Sometimes all it takes is a little bit of bad luck to get the story from boring to interesting. You of all people should know, given your father's history.
What does that man have to do with...
Michelle, calm down.
Ah, there's that fiery spirit I've come to expect from a detective as widely discussed as you, North. I get it, though. It must not be all that exciting to hear a grown man complain about his ex, his gay ex. Detective North, mind games can be rather abusive without a victim even realizing it. Sometimes you're too close to see it. For example, a person, man or woman, won't leave their physically abusive partner because they're convinced that's what they deserve, or that it'll get better if they work it out together. Detective Thorn, have you ever had a girlfriend give you the silent treatment?
Many. Why?
It's a power trip. It's now up to you to grovel and beg to find out what makes her happy, let alone find out what the problem even is. It's up to her to lead the argument. She's in control of it all.
If you even play your game.
Oh, you'll play until you figure out that it's her game.
Firstly, we're getting sidetracked. Secondly, not all women...
You're absolutely right, detective. Men do it too. Also, if someone's taking a step back to collect their thoughts, it's not a punishment from the significant other. I wanted to prove my point, but again, you're right. I was getting sidetracked.
Anyway, back to the subject at hand. You said you wanted to remind John where he came from. Did you mean you wanted an apology from him because of his mind games?
You could say that. In the end, I found a better excuse than being too afraid to go.
His mind games were scary?
No. His mind games were terrible, but it was also something different. John had a secret, and I was afraid that he tried to hurt me simply because I knew it.
How sure were you that he'd try to hurt you?
Why, of course.
Of course what? That you're sure? What do you mean? Are you saying it's happened before? Mr. Sturgis, can you please tell us what happened?
There was a time when John seemed like he was losing interest in me. And for some reason, I cared, so it bothered me. And I tried to make things work. When I asked what he wanted, he said he wanted to spice things up.
Whoa, hang on.
No, it's not like that, Detective. He tried to strangle me to death.
What?
Can I have some water, please, Detective Thorn?
It's okay, go. Mr. Sturgis, if you need a moment, I can step out.
No. Please, don't go. I am... just saying it out loud makes it so real. I wasn't expecting it to hit me all at once. Anyway, I remember I was crying and begging to be let go, and I could feel myself beginning to pass out. Everything would get fuzzy and dark. But I'd quickly open my eyes, and there he was, still there, choking me. I thought I was going to die. I woke up on the bedroom floor, and he wasn't home. So I packed everything that I could find in 5 minutes flat, and I ran. I just ran down the street with a little luggage thing containing my camera, laptop, and a few pieces of clothing. My hand shook when I answered Mason's call because I knew he would be there. I wanted to put that man back in his place, reminding him where he came from, but I couldn't. Do you know what it's like to realize you left a monster? That poor boy.
Who?
Nathan, of course. To have to put up with John for so long, I can't imagine what that's like for him. I know. I'd lose my mind.
Here you are, Mr. Sturgis.
You're too kind, Detective Thorn.
Now, can you give us a way to contact your sister so we can take a look at her photos?
Yes, sure. I'm sorry. What was this all about again?
On the morning of January 9th, John Doughtry was found dead in the back of the Drunken Bell.
That was John? I heard about the murder, but I didn't know it was him. Well, I can definitely sleep better knowing that. It's terrible. Don't misunderstand me. I find death to be simply terrible, but my feelings for John... This news does not upset me. To think that somebody actually killed him? I guess it took a monster to strangle a monster. I appreciate your time, detectives, but if there are no more questions...
How did you know he was strangled?
Oh, God! I simply was using a metaphor as all. He was strangled? Well, if he strangled me, he has to have done it to another lovesick sap. I wouldn't be surprised if Nathan couldn't take any more and gave John a taste of his own medicine.
Nathan, huh? Well, alright. That includes our interrogation then. Here's our card and we'll contact you if we need any more information.
Wait, what?
If you think of anything else important, don't hesitate to call. Thank you for your cooperation.
What the hell was that all about, Michelle?
There is something we seriously need to investigate before we continue. By the way, did you see it?
See what?
The smile. Sturgis smiled there at the end. Something is really, really wrong about that.
Michelle, he didn't smile, not once during the entire interview.
Yeah, he did. Let's save his information and get in touch in a few days. His sister and his manager will give us some corroboration for what happened that night.
Fine. Come on, let's go. I'm hungry anyway.
Now, do you understand what we're dealing with here? At his base, he's an eccentric artist. That's the nice way to put it. Now, before I get into all of that, I feel like I do need to disclose part of what Sturgis talked about, and that's the allegation of abuse. If what Sturgis said is all true, then I am terribly, terribly sorry for the abuse he had to endure. People can be truly horrible sometimes, and no one deserves that kind of treatment, regardless of who you are. That being said, Sturgis is the first person, and at this point the only person, to say that John had this dark side to him. So, at this point, when you have only one person making these kinds of allegations, you can't help but take it with a grain of salt. No, that's not it. More like you should make note of it, so it could be further investigated. Because if John did have a history of abusing his former lovers, then we have a very different case on our hands. Now, rest assured, this is definitely one of those things that Detective North looks into, but that will be covered in the following update. That aside, I don't even know where to begin with this Sturgis guy. To be honest, he's a complete anomaly. I can say that about him in absolute certainty because I've been fortunate enough to meet the guy. Well, I'm not saying I know him personally, unlike Derek Shepard, who I worked with for a solid year. I've only met Sturgis once. We had to team up on a simple project a couple years back, and needless to say, we had a hard time understanding each other's ideas. I mean, it makes sense that we'd clash. He's an artist and I'm a journalist. Our mediums of communication are fundamentally different. Suffice to say, we both became increasingly frustrated with the project, and it didn't do as well as either of us would have liked, and we went our separate ways soon after. As frustrating as it was to work with Sturgis myself, it turns out that I'm not alone. The other day I was talking to a friend of mine about this case, and when I mentioned that William Sturgis was associated with this case, he groaned, and proceeded to tell this story to me. Now, I had to quickly grab something to record with, so I apologize for the quality, but what he had to say was simply fascinating. Alright, I got a recording now, so please, go ahead.
All right, so Mr. Sturgis was incredibly difficult to interview. I did an article on an art exhibition, and lo and behold, some of his art was being featured. I'm not bashing him or his artwork, This man is a conundrum that I feel is impossible to figure out. When I finally managed to interview him, he would answer my in-depth questions with just a yes or no. I asked him what message he was hoping to convey through his featured photo series, titled Veil of Blue, to which he answered, "Why, yes." I interviewed him for 5 minutes, and it felt like an eternity. His answers were nonsensical. It seems trivial, but I probably wouldn't be as frustrated if I didn't have to wait an hour for people crowding him to disperse, and then waste another hour trying to find him. That in and of itself made no sense. After the crowd disappeared, no one saw him at all. Then, I was washing my hands in the bathroom, and out of nowhere, he just came right up to me. So I interviewed him right there, because it might be another 84 years until I could find him again. And that was all he gave me. Weird, off-the-wall answers that made no goddamn sense. I'm sorry, I don't mean to ramble on like this.
No, it's alright, man. You can continue if you want.
Yeah, I'll continue. So he gives me these weird answers. I return back to the office frustrated as hell, not knowing what in the world to do with what I got. But once I started transcribing the interview, my jaw dropped. Then, you take every answer he said and put it together into one cohesive sentence.
Really? Do you remember what it said by any chance?
Not off the top of my head. I should still have the transcript of it, though. I'll send it over to you.
I looked at the transcript he gave me and I realized why my friend was so frustrated. Sturgis's answers didn't make sense on their own, but when you look at the answers as a whole, it forms a statement. Here are the fragmented answers. I think there is a bigger picture. Does it matter? Why, yes. Because how else would we know of good? And the antithesis, how cliché. Anyway, that is my point, end. Just by hearing that, I'm sure you can already discern the message, although it sounds sort of awkward because it's all broken up. When read fluidly, it's, I think there is a bigger picture. Does it matter? Why, yes. Because how else would we know of good and the antithesis? How cliché. Anyway, that is my point. On one hand, I admit that this answer is pretty clever, yet at the same time, it frustrates me. Maybe it's because I'm a journalist and not an artist. That was something I kept coming back to. Maybe I don't understand Sturgis because he's an artist, because he has this unique perspective on the world that I just don't get. With that in mind, in an effort to try and understand Sturgis just a little bit more, I decided to scope out a local gala, housing some of his work simply to see what other artists have to say in regards to Sturgis, both as an artist and as an individual. The response varied, to say the least.
What do you mean, what is William Sturgis like? He's an amazing human being. When he describes his art, he glows and his passion becomes infectious. I went to see his exhibit on a whim, and after hearing him speak, I felt so inspired to create my own works of art. I managed to tell him that he encouraged me to even try, even though I'm no artist. There's so much sincerity in his eyes. I can't wait to see another one of his shows.
I saw his shit art at a Korean festival. He tried to reimagine traditional Korean art for the modern generations, and it was just shit. As a Korean, I thought his art looked more like classic Japanese art, only photoshopped. I guess you wouldn't really be able to tell if you weren't immersed in the culture, but I was really offended by it. People were looking at him and his work and accepted it as being Korean. That's not fucking cool. Also, I almost didn't notice, but my grandma pointed out that his accent was fucked up. Like, fake sort of fucked up. I'm pretty damn sure he's Japanese trying to make extra money by claiming to be Korean whenever our festival rolls around.
How long ago was this?
Oh, it was years ago when he was first getting started. No one knew him then. I saw him on TV and still can't believe he's making art in general. At least he's moved away from his faux Korean bullshit.
We weren't a well-known gallery at the time. We often had artists canceled to get into more popular galleries, or some had cold feet. One week, almost everyone canceled, and the curator and I were desperately making calls trying to get people. I suppose artists thought we were going to close, because no one wanted to showcase their work here. The curator contacted William Sturgis, and he filled this place with art, people, and cameras. I didn't deal with him personally, but his abstract art generated so much buzz that it revitalized the gallery. We've now become a place that sends artists onto bigger and better things. This gallery owes him so much.
And how long ago did this happen?
A little over a year ago. It's been an amazing transition.
Just under a year?
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible to hear, and congratulations about that, by the way.
Thank you.
What else can you say about him?
That's basically what I have to say. He came in with friends and journalists and almost single-handedly breathed new life into this place. And he'll call here every so often to recommend an artist. Now that I'm the curator, I've taken in every person he's recommended. It's life-changing to be featured here. But sometimes his accent is a bit strong and I struggle to understand him.
I'm sorry, his accent?
Yes, his accent.
He speaks English, correct?
Well, yeah, he does, but he's got this heavy Russian accent.
Heavy Russian accent? Did he happen to be Russian at all?
Well, he looked Russian. And he had a Russian accent, so yeah, I guess he's Russian.
A Russian accent? This thing baffled me when I first heard it. Were we really talking about the same person? Because if you remember correctly, the detectives made a deal about Sturgis actually being a Korean male during his interview. Plus, he had no accent at all. So where was this Russian bit coming from? But then I remembered the second guy I talked to, who said that he was some Japanese guy trying to pass himself off as a Korean artist with a fake accent. Again, they mentioned an accent. As I dwelled on this, I went back to find the first guy I talked to see what he had to say. I'm so sorry to bother you once more, but you wouldn't happen to know what Sturgis looked like, do you?
Oh, what a silly question you have there, Adrian. William Sturgis transcends appearance. He's proven time and time again that it doesn't matter the gender, the race, the religion, or the sexuality of the artist. He encompasses all that is beautiful in humanity.
I'm sorry if this comes across as rude, but what does that mean exactly?
Oh, it's simple. He could be whatever it is he wants. I've seen him as an African-American female, a young Asian male, you name it. It's just a part of his aesthetic. He could be whoever you want, and you never know which one's the real William. Hell, there are times that William's supposed to be at 12 different galas at the same time, and he was. It's like you could be anywhere you wanted without anyone knowing it was actually you. It's such a fantastic statement to make.
You heard that right. According to this person, Sturgis could be anyone he wants, and be anywhere he wishes without anyone knowing who he was or where he's at. Which sounds suspicious, given that he claimed to be at a gala on the night of the murder, yet also said he sent his sister to be at the Drunken Bell for prideful nights. Ugh. Maybe I'm reading too much into this, or maybe there really is something to this. I don't know. All I know is this. Before I try to learn more about Sturgis as a person, I first got to find out who Sturgis actually is. Oh boy. This is going to be fun. So, where are we at in the case right now? The detectives have finished up with William Sturgis, who made some pretty damning accusations about John, hinted at possible motive for the murder, and opened up a slew of even more questions to answer. And so, the detectives once again turned their attention to prime suspect number 1, Nathan Ashford. Details of which will come up next week in update number 6. Wow. Update number 6. I can't believe it. To anyone returning week after week to hear more about this case, thank you so much for being an avid listener. It really means the world to know that you are willing to keep up with my updates. You all are incredible, and I am thankful to be able to inform each and every one of you every week. And I guarantee that with each new update, this ride is only going to keep getting crazier. I hope you all enjoy what's to come, and I'll see you all next week. Good night, everyone.
And there you have it. Episode 5 of Lost and Cold is done, and we are halfway done with Lost and Cold, The Murder of John Doughtry. As always, I'm Greg from TSG, and I'm here with your credits. Episode 5, There Is a Bigger Picture, was written by Ashley J. and Trevor H., with revisions and help by Kita Creations and myself. The vocal talent is as follows. Adrian Miller is voiced by Andre Dame from the Lair Project. Detective Anthony Thorn was voiced by myself, Mr. Greg Patron, and Detective Michelle North was voiced by Brianna Northway. Ashley J is the voice of Janine Harper. That's Kanan Ara from Kanan and Kaida Cosplays, the voice of William Sturgis. The journalist that Adrian was talking to was voiced by Shapeshifter Cosplay, aka Ben. Thank you once more, Ben, for being a part of this awesome project. The 3 people that Adrian talked to at the various galas are as follows. Myself, Kari from K&K Streams, and Hologhost. Our logos were created by Kari and Lisa. Thank you guys once more for the incredible logos. Visuals were done by His Westerness Art. As always, you can check him out at facebook.com/hiswesternessart. Audio was recorded by myself with post-production help from Hologhost. Thank you so much, Hologhost, for doing the post on this audio. Our intro music is In Moments from Granger. You can check them out at grangertheband.bandcamp.com. And our outro music is Shatter from Sam Quick. You can go check out his music and his brand new record, The Way Forward, at samquick.bandcamp.com. And as always, Lost and Cold is a TSG production. It was recorded by myself with help from some amazing, talented people. Thank you guys so much for listening to episode 5, and we really hope that you guys have enjoyed the first half of Lost and Cold. Now, we are sorry to say that next week we will be taking a little bit of a mid-season break. It's only a 1-week break, mind you, but we are still taking a mid-season break. We've got a very special blooper episode coming up, bloopers from the first 5 episodes of Lost and Cold. So if you want to check that out, you can check that out next Friday. But if you don't want that, you just are waiting for episode 6, tune in 2 weeks where we will be back with a brand new episode, episode 6, which is called Constant State of Anxiety. Until then, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Take care.